Hello. Welcome back. I'm Jennifer with Watercolor Girlfriend, and we like to work with abstracts and we like to do urban landscapes, watercolor and ink in here. So thanks for joining us today. We are going to paint some abstracts today, and right now we're focusing on a couple of colors, yellow and orange. So there's a variety of different values and tones of yellows and oranges. So what we're going to do is choose some of our favorite watercolors, and this I created in one of my favorite art sketchbooks. You know, they call it a sketchbook, but I painted in watercolor, and it technically wasn't a sketch, so I don't know, journal. But this is just something I ordered. I got this online. Excuse the tape there, but also a favorite is this green tape over blue tape for painting. That it seems to come off a little nicer. I wish I could remember where I learned that, and then I gave it a try, and it seems to, not pull on the paper so much. So give that one a try. I think you'll like the green. Is it Gorilla? I don't know. So then this one is 140 pound, which is really nice. It is not all cotton, just sketchbook, but it's also hot press because, I love that smooth paper instead of something with tooth, but they have those too. But it's nice and thick, so it'll give you a great substrate to work on, but it's also, it won't warp and it won't just absorb the paint and then, bleed maybe to the other side or be transparent, or it's just a nice piece of paper. And technically, you could even do it on the other side. You can see there is a little bit of, warping and stuff that you could probably take care of in some post-process, maybe spritz the back a little bit and weight it down or iron it. Some people find good results with that. But as I veer off, this is what we're going to paint today, and I do 2 at a time, but you can do 1. And these are a couple of things that we used. This is the Ecoline version of, they're kind of like inks, but they're liquid watercolors, and they don't really even number them, but this is kind of a brighter orange, and I love that they offer a couple of different oranges, but I love how this works in with the watercolors themselves. They do tend to stick quicker, so you need to know what your aim is for when you're using them. If you're concerned about it, not landing in the wrong spot, moving them around afterwards isn't real easy, adding more water, that kind of thing. It doesn't always want to move. You can take it off a little by blotting or maybe scrubbing with a brush or whatever, but they're pretty permanent pretty quickly. So then I also found these fun watercolor markers. Ooh, this is one of their yellower. It's more of a deeper yellow than kind of what the top tells you. It's King Art. I was surprised to find these at Walmart the other day for, I don't know, a couple of bucks. Like 12 bucks, $11.50 or something. But it comes with 2 sides. I'm so excited about these. I did try them out a little bit here on these paintings, and I did yesterday as well. But I'm really looking forward. They come in a huge variety of colors in one package. And it says that they're acid free, so I'm looking forward to using these more. And then my favorite, the Pilot Precise. It's a roller ball there. And that I did a little accent afterwards near the end with this fine gel. It's kind of a gel roller ball kind of a feel. It's one of my favorites. I wish it could come refillable, and they also run out a little sooner than I'd like, but it's not a felt tip and it's not a ballpoint. It's very much its own kind of thing. So you can buy these anywhere. Walmart, $3 or $4 or $5. So you know, I think it's time I maybe even stock up a little bit on these. Okay, so let's get into it, and I'll see you here again at the end. I get started, and you can see I've already sectioned off the area in my sketchbook that I want to use, and I've picked my, well, I've tried out some of the water there, you see already, but the stuff on the left, the palette on the left is strictly watercolor, and the palette up on the top is the watercolor, the liquid watercolor that I showed you earlier. It kind of looks like ink. And just grabbing an oil pastel. I love the resist that it creates. I have so much fun with those. And I've recently started using these really big brushes, and those have also been really fun. And it's a little something to get used to, but you know, just grab it and go for it and see what you come up with, because they're really interesting to work with. You could, you know, that is a pretty big brush. It's usually for oil, but who cares? You do it, you know, use it wherever you want. So filling in with some orange, some bright orange to start with. And I like to wipe it on another piece of paper. You can't see that on the side though. And then I use those for like greeting cards. Later on I'll trim them down, and that can also be an interesting way to share your paintings with friends and family and whoever. Okay, didn't like that yellow because it was covered in some other stuff. I'm not always that careful with what I'm doing with my watercolor, and I tend to just jump in and go for it because, you know, why not? I wanted to use the yellow in a different way, less organic and more of a form, a shape, than I did with the orange. And again, wiping it off there, it'll fill some of the scrap paper, watercolor paper that I use and I collect. So it's like I said, it's a nice way to use up your scrap paper too, and you have paint. I mean, you don't need to waste it. Here are those liquid watercolors I talked about, and I'm going to blend it with some of the orange. It's a really cool effect. If you've never tried that, I really recommend it. And this one didn't quite, it was already getting dry from, you know, 2 seconds on the paper. So I just added a little water to give it some room to grow in the space. Now, once I have done this, I usually will walk away and let it dry on its own. I've tried hair dryers, I've tried heat guns to get things to clean up faster, dry faster, and I just find it either moves around the water and the paint, or it still takes a while, and it maybe even warps the paper. So now I just let it sit and find something else to do. There was the Caran d'Ache crayon that I spoke about earlier as well, that watercolor crayon. They're real interesting to use as they go through wet paint. So now I've let it dry, and I'm coming back with another color and another shape. It creates some more interest instead of always the same one shape using, you know, to fill the space. So this is kind of a deep yellow that I chose. It's an ochre color from my, you know, I should have grabbed the color chart for those. And then I'm using just a simple Q-tip to make a nice even circle. Love a Q-tip. And I'm going over other colors that have dried and filling white space. Those liquid watercolors are nice because you can re-wet them all the time, you know. They dry nicely if you want to transport them or whatever, and then you just re-wet them. They're real easy.
I let it dry again. I just cut out for that. And I'm going to incorporate another color that's kind of in between orange and yellow again that I have. And again, I'm using a larger brush. It's a little smaller than that first one, but I wanted to eliminate some more of that white space that was still there, part of the white paper, but I didn't want it to be too bold. Just another, a little lighter tone. So we got that, started in there. Okay, and we're going to go over some areas with more of the same color I used before. I'm not adding a new color on top of this shape. I'm incorporating the same, just layering it up so it's richer, more coverage, bolder, so it doesn't fade away. I don't want all of my colors to be the same tone. It will lack some interest, if you have lights and darks and maybe brights and less, more subdued. It's going to give you more interest in your painting and your artwork than if it's all sort of the same monochromatic, or not monochromatic, but the same overall like tone. And that's, that's a personal thing for me, but I think if you look around and you see artwork that you like, it will often have a variety of tones and maybe even a variety of textures. Okay, getting into those watercolor marker type things again that I mentioned. And I love how these work for this process. So you're going to see that I'm putting it on, right? Like a marker, but then it's watercolor. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to get rid of some of this color and make it have a little texture. I'm going to blot it. I'm going to kind of scrub it a little bit. I just love how it recedes a little bit and comes to life a little bit more. And then I'm going to, do it on the other painting. I think I wanted to, change the direction a little bit. And it's real consistent. It's got a nice color. And I've been really enjoying those. So we'll see how long they last. I'm hoping they don't dry up. And yeah, I love the texture that this creates. It gives you some more depth. And again, the word interest. It's not just a straight line all the time. You get to, play around with the textures, blotting it away and that kind of thing. Okay, now I wanted to add some of that interest that I was talking about a minute ago, where it's got some real rich, bold colors that jump out at you a little bit more. And this is that, like a darker orange watercolor, liquid watercolor that I'm adding in here. I let that dry a little bit, but now I'm working in an area where it's already dry from earlier, so bringing out those watercolor brush pens again. You know, now that I have them, I didn't realize how versatile they were going to be, so I'm kind of sorry I waited, but I'm real excited that they're working out well. If you haven't given them a try yet, it's almost tempting to, you know, use them even more. But they do some nice fine detail, you can see here. And I've really only used this one for this painting. But you could certainly, you know, start incorporating lots of other colors into it. Great, so it dried a little bit more, and now I want to add some final touches. And I don't often include black. As you can see, some fine lines I tried out already just to see that I like them. I keep this nice part of a sketchbook where I've included a lot of different mark making that I like. I also keep some on my phone, and I'll refer to those. Maybe I've seen some symbols before that I've screen captured on my phone that I like to incorporate. But you know, you can keep working while it's drying a little bit more. Sorry it kind of cuts off there on the bottom, but you kind of get what's going on there. And again, it's adding a little more flavor, a little more interest, a little more variety, and a little more depth to your painting. You could keep going almost infinitely. It's a fun way to work, and I've really been enjoying it. I hope you will give it a try for yourself as well. I'm going to take this paint off, or this tape off quick. And you see it's not perfect. Again, it's in my sketchbook. I'm going to paint some of the white. See, maybe you see some of the errors from the paint.
It was so much fun to paint. I just love creating these mini abstract watercolors, and I love to work in pairs, so they could either be presented in pairs or separate, but I love, you know, working it that way. You could do it however you want. You could do 3 at a time, which I have also done. You could do different sizes, that kind of thing. But I hope it inspired you to create a little and maybe restrict the colors that you use to really bring out some of your creativity. Sometimes I had to think a little bit. It's like, gee, I only have so many yellows or so many oranges on my palette. What am I gonna use? How am I gonna make that stand out? That kind of thing. So that was really fun. And I also have been using these awesome oil pastels. Get those anywhere as well. These I found at, I don't know, the local store. I don't think it was even a hobby store or an art supply store. You can find those just about anywhere. And then this you might have to special order. This is a Caran d'Ache crayon. This is a watercolor or a water soluble crayon. So you saw me drag it through the paint there. So that's kind of fun. It's got a nice like viscosity. It really goes smoothly through there. And if you wanted to, you could then use water after that to, you know, spread it around kind of like regular watercolor. So those two I also incorporated. I hope you enjoyed today's demonstration, and it will inspire you to create your own. We'll see you next time. Thanks. Bye-bye.